Hi everyone, and welcome to this week's chat. Over last week's content, although we had a good variety of questions, so we're going to cover a lot of other content. I found it kind of funny though that every time I start the chat, Google Hangouts on air tells me that I can broadcast for up to 8 hours. Wouldn't that be fun? I could probably come up with 8 hours worth of stuff to talk about, but you're obviously not going to hang around. So a lot of questions again this week, and I'm aiming to keep it in 30 minutes. So quite a few of you chimed in when restaurants and fast foods were mentioned in the United States in different aspects in terms of the question. So the first one says they use a lot of salt and a lot of sugar in the food they're providing to the public. What can we do to avoid this? Well, restaurants and fast food restaurants are slowly changing some of their offerings and making them more healthy. Now, sometimes they're going the complete opposite and coming up with something that is just totally loaded, but they're doing that more for the attention getting, but they're still offering you some items. And so it's really a matter of getting comfortable with their menu and so that you can find the items that tend to be lower in sugar, lower in fat, lower in salt. So in addition to just looking at the menu analysis online for the restaurants, you can ask for some substitutions and changes. Did you know when you go into a fast food restaurant, you can ask for French fries that haven't been salted? It means you may have to wait because they may have to run a new batch that they haven't salted yet. But yes, you can get them unsalted. And you can order chef salads. There's a variety of salads at many of the fast food places that are really good. You can get them with grilled chicken breast, which would be lower in salt than the regular chicken breast. You can order grilled chicken sandwiches instead of breaded chicken sandwiches, and it's going to be a lot lower in salt when you do that. In restaurants, if something comes with a higher fat meat, ask for a substitution. If it comes with sauces that might be high in salt or a sweet sauce, for example, ask that the sauce be served on the side. And then you can control the amount that you put on. So we can't really do a lot to influence what the restaurants are doing right now, but we can certainly be aware of the choices they offer and some of the decisions we can make. There was a question that says, has anything been looked at that compares families who eat at home versus families who eat it out in terms of the impact on the overweight and obesity levels that we're seeing? And I did find one study done by the National Institutes of Health, and there's probably more. I just didn't have enough time to really dig in, and this was a good study. They looked at a couple of eras, years spans when we were in a recession in the United States, and so people were having to be more careful with their spending. And the two time periods they looked at were the years 2005 through 2006 and 2009 through 2010. These were considered recession years for the United States. And what they found out is that foods eaten away from home and in restaurants and fast foods did significantly decrease. And as that decreased, the calories that people took in and the fat content they were eating also decreased because they're now eating at home. So what they found was that there was an improvement in the overall diet quality of working-aged adults. Said a lower share of the calories came from fat and saturated fat, they consumed less cholesterol, and they ate more fiber. And it wasn't all due just to the fact that they were not eating out as much, but that was certainly a big contributor to it. It says that previous research has shown that the more that you eat away from home, the diet is going to be of lower nutritional quality. It will be higher in fat, saturated fat, sodium, cholesterol, and it will be lower in fiber and calcium. So we do have studies that show that eating out in American families does increase the calories and particularly the fat that they're eating. So yes, that could obviously be a contributor to what's going on. There was a question about how many hours of exercise do you require every day. Hopefully you got some good information from going through the lesson this week, but it's recommended at a minimum to get 30 minutes of exercise at least 5 days per week, and you shouldn't have more than 2 consecutive days go by without any exercise. What I tell my clients is eventually I want them to get up to 45 minutes to 60 minutes 5 to 6 days a week. and to also work in strength training twice a week. In strength training sessions, I like to see a minimum of 15 to 20 minutes. They don't have to be very long, but those are the level of exercise that clients have been able to best maintain their weight and also lose weight. But we want to just improve overall health. So even if you don't have to worry about your weight, try to get that minimum of 30 minutes a day in. The question was, what is the best way for people who are obese to improve their health? And so I'm assuming you're meaning to lose weight. In terms of the diet to follow, we have research that says the best diet to follow is the one that you can live with. And we talked a little bit about this last week. So there is no preferred diet, such as a low carbohydrate or a low fat or high protein. It's basically finding changes that you can live with for the rest of your life that decrease your total calories while maintaining a good diet. Okay, there were questions about fast food and junk food becoming a global problem. And in terms of junk food, I'm referring to foods that have a lot of calories but little nutritional value. So if you want to look at how you can make better choices when it comes to fast food and snack items, which are what we tend to grab junk food for. Again, I've already mentioned at restaurants and fast foods, you've got some healthier choices. So look at the menus in advance, look at the nutritional analysis in advance. We should be promoting fresh fruits and vegetables and whole grain items as snack items, and particularly for our kids. There is a problem with foods being marketed very attractively to children. And so there are some efforts underway by different countries, and it's been talked about in the United States, to ban ads that promote foods high in salt, fat, and sugar aimed at children. Some U.S. companies have cut their advertising to children under the age of 12. So, for example, I'm not picking on McDonald's, it's just one that comes to mind in terms of their Happy Meals. You used to see commercials all the time promoting the Happy Meals and the toys in them. McDonald's doesn't do that anymore. But McDonald's is still highly promoting their meals, as are the other fast food companies, during times that children are watching TV. So even though the marketing is not directed specifically at them anymore, they're still exposed to a lot of marketing. And so that can still be a concern. They've also looked at taxes on junk foods. They've looked at adding taxes to soda pop, and some states have done that, and it's created a lot of controversy. It'll be interesting to see down the road if it had an impact in terms of what's going on. How much water and what should be the temperature of water? And we answered this last week. I still promote the approximately 64 ounces of fluids a day with the emphasis on water, because the Institutes of Medicine has years and years of research that support this. In terms of temperature of water, it really is a preference. It doesn't make any difference. So if you'd like drinking warm tea or hot tea, room temperature water or cool water, it is strictly up to preference. There was a question, will drinking water before a meal and during a meal help me not eat as much? Possibly. We have found out from some studies that taking a glass of water prior to a meal helps you to feel fuller, and it might decrease the amount you eat. I have had clients who would drink a glass of hot tea before a meal because they felt like the hot liquids helped them feel more full. And drinking while you eat has the primary purpose of slowing you down. Remember, we talked about in the weekly challenge that taking 20 minutes to eat gives your brain and your stomach time to communicate and tell you that you're full. So if taking drinks of water between your bites slows you down and allows that 20 minutes to occur, that can be very helpful. Someone asked why increasing their grain intake caused them to gain weight. Well, without details, it's hard to know. One of the questions I would ask was, did you decrease anything else in your diet when you increased the grains? So it could just be possibly that the addition of grains were just additional calories in your diet because you didn't reduce anywhere else, and therefore you had too many calories in the diet. Another question would be, when you're eating the grains, were you adding butter to them? Were you putting sauces on them? And if so, you might have been changing your calorie balance. Can you eat too many sweet potatoes? I love sweet potatoes, and a very good source of fiber and vitamin A. And we're getting to enter the fall season here in the United States. And so when we see pumpkins and sweet potatoes, those things kind of are more on my mind. What you need to be careful of is if you're really focusing on sweet potatoes, are you getting a variety of foods? Are you getting balance in your diet? So you actually could be short on some critical nutrients just because you're not keeping variety by focusing only on sweet potatoes. And it's possible, depending on how much you eat, that your skin could turn slightly orange because of the high level of carotenoids that are found in the sweet potatoes. It's not a health risk, it's more of just a physical appearance change. Someone said, I know I should be eating more fruits and vegetables, but it's really hard when I'm on a budget. And a couple of people said we'd really like some easy, healthy recipes using fruits and vegetables. And for the file that contains this chat, I'm going to provide a link for you to a website called Fruit and Veggies More Matters. And they're going to give you some tips on how to use fruits and vegetables on a budget. And on their website, there's a link that will take you to some recipes. So this will give you some ideas. And think of things like buying in season when things tend to be cheaper. I mean, apples right now are in season, so we've seen the costs go down. Buy more when things are on sale, and you can put them in the freezer. Make sure you comparison shop. Sometimes buying a large bag of something is not more economical than just buying a smaller serving. Look for farmer markets in your area, other co-op programs. I participate in a program called Bountiful Baskets, and every 2 weeks for $15 plus a gas surcharge, I'm getting fruits and vegetables, and I'm getting a lot. It has really caused me to increase my intake the last couple of weeks because I don't want the fruits to go to waste. So I'm eating more fruits lately than I have been before. But it is definitely saving me money compared to what I was paying for in the grocery stores. So look for programs like Bountiful Baskets in your area. And if you go to bountifulbaskets.org, you can look up for your state what locations are providing this service, and if it's not in a town near you, you can request that one come in. You get enough families to sign up and they will come to your city. Someone asked about a vegan lifestyle and would it be healthier for them? And again, I'm going to give you a link to the Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics, and there are a lot of handouts there on the vegan lifestyle to give you information. A lot of people make the switch to vegetarian diets because of the health benefits. According to the 2010 dietary guidelines, vegetarian eating patterns have been associated with improved health outcomes, including lower rates of overweight and obesity, reduced risk for heart disease, lower blood pressure, and reduced risk for cancer. So yes, there are some benefits. And there are different types of vegetarians. The strict vegan will someone who is a lacto-vegetarian will exclude all animal products except dairy products, which is what the lacto refers to. A lacto-ovo-vegetarian will exclude all animal products except dairy and egg products. And then there's what's called the flexitarian. And this is a semi-vegetarian with occasional meat, poultry, and fish consumption. So there'll be a link to give you a lot of information. There was a question on the best exercises to start your workout. So I interpreted this as you have an exercise routine. What should you do at the very beginning of that? You want to warm up and get your muscles ready. So stretching can be a good way to warm up. Sometimes when I go for long walks, I power walk, which is a fast pace, but I will take the first 1/4 of a mile to just do a slow walk, and that can be my warm up before I speed up. Another thing I've started doing prior to my power walks is to do just 5 minutes of kettlebell swings or 5 minutes of leg squats, air squats. And those can warm up the thigh muscles and get the glutes warmed up and everything too. So a warm up is what you want. There was a question about eating out and portion sizes and what's the best way to eat healthy when eating out. You can ask for child portions. Some restaurants will say that child meals can only be served to maybe 12 and under. I've actually asked and told them, I said, I'm trying to watch my calorie intake. Could I order the child's meal? And they let me do it. You can ask for the lunch portion. If you go out to supper, and when you go to lunch, for example, let me back up. A lot of times you'll see a lunch menu and a supper menu, and the supper menu is larger portion sizes. So if you go to supper, you may ask them, do you have a lunch portion size? And then they can provide that for you as an option. Here, my computer's wanting to update again. Sorry, I had to stop and clear out that window. So that's an option. I usually plan on only eating part of my meal when I go out, particularly if it's supper time when portions are larger. So when I order my meal, I will ask for a take-home box or a to-go box. And I ask that they bring me the box either before my meal comes or when my meal comes. And then as soon as my meal gets there, I automatically take half of it and put it in my takeout box. And that's my meal for the next day. And I eat what's left in front of me. Because if I wait till I'm through being satisfied with a meal, sometimes there's just a little bit left over and you think, well, that's not worth taking home, and you might push yourself to eat it even though you weren't really hungry. So just separate your half of the meal before you even start, and that will help you control the amount. You can share items with other people. I went to a dinner not too long ago. There were 4 of us. We ordered 1 appetizer. We passed it around. We all had our own entrees, but then we ordered 1 dessert, and we all passed it around. So we still got to enjoy those items without overindulging in large amounts. One of the things my family doesn't like is when we go to Mexican restaurants, they will serve you the bowl of chips while you wait for your meal. And my family can go through 2 bowls of chips before the meal ever comes. And then honestly, we're not that hungry when the meal comes. So what I like to do is to tell the waiter, don't bring the chips out until our meal comes. And then you will not eat nearly as many chips. It's my kids that are crazy about that idea. They want to start in on the chips before the meal ever gets there. And then I just encourage you, take your time. If you're eating with people, enjoy the conversation, and that will help you slow up and you won't be as hungry. I already mentioned earlier, ask for dressings and sauces to be served on the side. We go to Olive Garden and I ask for the salad without any dressings. And that helps me limit how much. If they're offering you homemade bread, enjoy the taste of the homemade bread. Don't put butter on it, just really savor the flavor of the bread. You can ask for cheese to be left off hamburgers and sandwiches. Ask what kind of spread is on sandwiches. If it comes with a mayonnaise or a Thousand Island or a ranch dressing, you can ask for mustard, or many times I tell them no spread at all. And the latest example I thought of as I was out to supper with some friends earlier this week, and I wanted to order onion rings. And so I asked them if they'd all be willing to help eat my onion rings. They didn't have to pay for them. They just needed to help eat them. And so when the onion rings came, by the time we shared them, I only had 2 onion rings, and I was totally happy with that because I wanted the taste, but I didn't want the whole order. Okay, the next question says, it seems like more people are having problems with gluten. And this is a very timely question because a lot of people are looking to go gluten-free. And gluten is a protein found in wheat, barley, rice. Sometimes oats may be contaminated with gluten. And so it's heavily abundant in the food population. But technically, only 1% of the population has a medical condition called celiac disease, where you have a reaction to the gluten, the protein in the grains, and it causes inflammation and malabsorption of nutrients. And it's a very serious illness to be dealing with. And so the majority of the population really doesn't need to go gluten-free, and going gluten-free has not been shown to promote weight loss. So I have provided you a link to a newly developed handout from Kansas State University Research and Extension. They've put together a fact sheet. You'll find that with today's chat. Okay, we're going to make it through the questions, it looks like. What are the benefits of coconut oil? When we asked people to reduce their consumption of saturated fats like lard and butter, One of the things that happened was people started looking to use coconut oil, and it's really been a fad. It's popular. But what you need to remember is that it is 44% lauric acid and 16% myristic acid, both which will raise cholesterol levels. But in addition to raising the LDL component of cholesterol, which is the component that contributes to heart disease, it also raises HDL levels, which are the good cholesterol. So that's kind of the controversy. We know that saturated fat raises LDL, which is not good for us, but it also raises HDL, which is good for us. So does the rise in HDL, the benefit of that, outweigh the disadvantage of the LDLs going up? We don't really know. We don't have good research to support that. So my comment would be that if you decide to use coconut oil, do it for the taste. Don't do it because you think it's healthier, because we don't have the evidence for that. Do it because you enjoy the taste, and that would be a legitimate reason. Moderation is better, and the more virgin the coconut oil, which means the less processed it is, the better it is for you. There was a question about cheeses and the saturated fat. This person buys cheeses without a nutritional label. They said, is there any way to tell based on just the physical properties of the cheeses whether it's lower in saturated fat? And no, you can't determine it based on physical properties. But if you know the company that produced the cheese, you should be able to go to their website and look up the nutritional information. The lower fat cheeses, which means they're also lower in saturated fat, mozzarella is about 65% fat as a source of calories compared to cheddar cheese and Swiss cheese, which are 80% on the average fat. Another word for the mozzarella is the farmer's cheese. Feta cheese tends to be a little bit lower. Ricotta cheese is lower in fat, and you can also buy low-fat cheddar cheeses, low-fat Colby cheeses, and you can buy some cheeses that are fat-free. Their sensory qualities are going to be different. They're a little more plastic feeling in terms of the mouthfeel, so you may or may not like that. Are there any good suggestions for making or buying baked goods with fewer empty calories? In terms of buying baked goods, we're going to address label reading in one of our chats, and I'm going to tell you what to look for in terms of interpreting labels to determine if you're getting the most nutritious items. So we'll be coming back to that. In terms of baking products with fewer empty calories, if you do a Google search, you're going to find some good ideas. There are recipes out there where you can replace half the fat in a product with tofu, which is a soybean product. Pureed white beans have been used. Applesauce has been used to replace fat. You can take any recipe that calls for a whole egg and use 2 egg whites, and you're reducing the fat. Now, it wouldn't work in something like a pound cake, which relies on the number of yolks as part of the ingredient. Another suggestion is if you're making chocolate chip cookies or anything that calls for chocolate chips, if you would normally put in 2 cups of the regular chocolate chips, put in 1 cup of the mini chocolate chips. You reduce the amount by half, but by using the mini chocolate chips, it looks like there's more in the product. And as long as it's pleasing to the eye and we can taste some chocolate, we're happy, but it had half the chips in it. A question about, is Greek yogurt dairy or protein? It's both. You can count it from whichever food group that you want, because it's a dairy product, but it's much higher in protein than most of your yogurts. Will omega-3 fatty acids help with headaches, and does anything help with headaches? Omega-3 fatty acids are known to have an anti-inflammatory response, so they can reduce inflammation. And the research that's looked at, will that migraines, has been inconclusive. We do not have research to support that a high intake of omega-3s will help with migraines. So a couple of things I can mention. Don't skip meals. Migraines are associated with having alterations in your blood glucose, your blood sugar levels, because you're skipping meals. In terms of foods, Tyramine is a substance found naturally in some foods, and the level of tyramine might trigger headaches, so migraines in particular. So foods to watch for are aged cheeses, aged, canned, cured, or processed meats. So cured ham might be an example. Hot dogs would be an example, and bologna of processed meats. Beans, such as broad beans or fava beans. Pickles have been associated. Tyramine can be found in canned soups, so be careful with that. And it says generally the longer a high protein food ages, the greater the tyramine content. Also monitor for food additives. Nitrates are found in processed foods, and they have been associated with migraines along with MSG, which is monosodium glutamate. And you would find that in products such as soy sauce, meat tenderizers, Asian foods, and some packaged foods. Other foods that might be triggers based on research studies would be foods that have tannins and phenols. Examples are black tea, bananas, apple skins, red wine, and sulfites, which are also prevalent in wines. And if you have given up caffeine, sometimes you'll get migraines associated with caffeine withdrawal. So your best thing to do is to keep a food diary, monitor your migraine frequency and intensity. We've got just 3 more questions that I'll hit on. How can I get more vitamin D besides being in the sun? Because people limit their time in the sun, or they use sunscreen abundantly. Sources of vitamin D in the diet: the flesh of fatty fish, such as salmon, tuna, and mackerel. Fish liver oils are excellent sources. You'll find some small amounts of vitamin D in beef liver, cheese, and egg yolks, and some mushroom varieties. And look for fortified products. Many ready-to-eat cereals are fortified with vitamin D. You can find orange juice that is fortified with vitamin D, and also some margarines and some yogurts. And milk is fortified with vitamin D, at least in the United States. If you're in another country, I can't promise you that. What is the best exercise for weight loss? Whatever one you'll do. It has to be an exercise, and an exercise routine you'll stick with, because the key is getting in that 45 minutes or longer, 5 to 6 days a week. And also pay attention to strength training and build up muscle. And you might look at high intensity training. There's a lot of good articles out lately that state you can burn a lot more calories if you work at high intensity for shorter duration. But again, you can Google, and you're going to find things on that. And the last question says, are diets based on the blood type valid? And there is no evidence to support that. There was one study who said, because there's no evidence, let's see if we can find anything. And this was some Canadian researchers. They looked at over 1,400 participants, at their blood types and their risk factors and the diets they were following. And what they concluded is that the way an individual responds to any one of the diets recommended in the blood type diet has absolutely nothing to do with their blood type, and has everything to do with their ability to stick to a sensible diet plan in terms of health markers. So there you go. And we did it. We got through all the questions in 30 minutes. Again, thank you for all the questions that you've been asking. And it's just fun for me to see what you're interested in and to help direct you to some resources and some of the latest information. We are starting to get cooler temperatures here in Kansas, so it's been really nice. I hope you're having great weather wherever you're at. Have a wonderful week. Thank you.